Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're back. It's January 2 to the Senior Bowl to see a bunch of these guys live. The best time of the year, my favorite event of the year. And what better to do before that than to get a little bit more prep work in? So, how's about we talk about some of the interior offensive linemen today on the Draft Dodgers? And we're back. And again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining here. I think this is like, I don't know, episode 10 or 11 of the Draft Dodgers. We're glad you're here. Please, if you're new, appreciate you being here. Hit that like, hit that bell for notifications, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me and my co-host Tigo out a lot. Does a bunch of good things for the YouTube algorithm and brings all this content that we're putting out for you right up to the top. So any help from you guys is appreciated. And before I go on, before we get into this class of interior linemen, I guess I should bring on my co-host. It's been a while. Let me reintroduce you guys. Talking Jets with Tigo. How are you, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Hi, friend.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
I
man.
have been sick
You have been sick as a dog, huh?
for 11 straight days. I got
Ugh.
sick the day on New Year's Eve,
Uh-huh.
and I have been sick until today. I'm still a little sick, but we've been trying to record this for so long, and I just
know.
speak,
Yeah,
and I finally got to a point to where I can talk, I can breathe, and I'm ready to do this. I've been missing these conversations.
Yeah, so I mean, interesting stuff going on in well, not so much the NFL because we're both Jets fans, but in college football, a lot of moving and shaking going on. We heard about you heard about old Nick Saban is hanging him up. SEC's up for grabs again.
Yep. That was not on my bingo card of
Right.
things that was going to happen this college football season. Nick Saban retiring, like I thought he'd go for one more.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he'd go for one more. To see him retire, that whole organization is going to like, how do you move on? I think Alabama.
I think they'll be just fine.
I think so too, of course. But Saban retiring puts such a wrench in the whole what is Harbaugh going to do thing now. Because hey, I thought I was a believer that he was going to go back to Michigan. That I've stood pat on that.
Okay.
But Alabama comes calling, like NFL teams come calling, cool. Like we've seen this song and dance before. But if Alabama comes calling, he could reset the coaching market for like the whole NCAA.
Yeah, I think he's going to the NFL. I think that he's run his course. He won his national championship. Now he's going to go win a Super Bowl, or at least try to wherever he lands. But I digress. Enough about the NFL. It's draft season, baby. It's officially draft season now. We're in January, right?
Yep.
How pumped are you, man?
I'm so excited. I love draft season. And now it's draft season, not just for us, Dom, but for 18 other fan bases, including our own, because they didn't make it to the playoffs. And you know what? That's fine. For all these teams, we got next year. That's what this is for. Let's talk about the players that are going to make our teams better. Let's talk about the players to get excited for. Let's talk about the guys that are going to dominate the league for the next 10 years, because this draft class has got a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And even more so, like to drill down a little further than that, not only this draft class, but this positional group that we're going to talk about today. A lot of good players in this group, man. This interior is it's nice. Listen, it's definitely got some real studs probably in the in the top 4, 5, 6, however you put it, and then you got some really good players from 6 to 15. I think it's a class that you're going to be able to find starters. This is one of those interior classes where you're going to see starters. Maybe not year one, but come about of year 2, year 3 that were drafted in the 4th and 5th rounds of this class. So
I think the best way to think about it is there's very clearly like 2 tiers. There's your starters, and then there's your potential starters. Mm-hmm. And these are high-end potential starters, in my opinion, when you look at this whole class, because there's like, hey, this guy's a long shot. He might be a backup for a long time and so on. This class is like, I think it's 15 deep of guys who like legitimately could start in the NFL and be, not horrible. And I think that's a really, really interesting thing to say. Now, am I saying that this class is filled with like Pro Bowl interior offensive linemen? I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of these guys show up and ball out, right? But
That would be the hope.
Of course. But there are tons of guys that are just going to like show up every day and play for like 10 to 15 years. And you're not going to buy their jersey, but you're also not going to know who they are because of bad things either. They're just going to kind of exist. And that's not a bad thing for an offensive lineman.
No, not at all. Not at all. So
not everyone needs to be Quentin Nelson.
Why don't we hop in and we'll pull up the graphic that we got here to show our top 10 as we stand here in January. Let me do this. Bada boom, bada bing. And here's the top 10. So I'll go through it because I think there's one big distinction that we do have to address before we start to get into our player breakdowns. And my top 10 starts with Graham Barton out of Duke. Troy Fautanu, I have, second out of UW. Christian Haynes from UConn, a name that I think everyone's going to need to start getting familiar with. He is my third ranked interior guy. I got Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon, number 4. Cooper Beebe, number 5, the guard / play me anywhere kind of guy out of Kansas State. Zach Frazier, another favorite of both of ours, out of West Virginia, number 6. Zach Zinter, the guard from Michigan. 7. Cedric Van Pran, the center from Georgia. 8. Christian Mahogany, the guard from BC, at 9. And I have Dominic Pooney, who there was a tackle in college, but, I have him here, and I have Graham Barton here, and I have Troy Fautanu here because, as I see it, those guys are going to be interior offensive linemen at the next level. So I classified them and grouped them in with the guards. You, on the other hand, did not, with the exception of Fautanu.
Yeah, I originally, when we originally did the tackles, I had Fautanu in the tackle rankings because I thought, you know what, I think he can do it. And then I went back,
which I think he can. Which I want to start in that because I don't think that Troy when I talk about Fautanu and his game, really, I think of it like this. I think he has the chance to be a very, very, very good interior player. I think what he does at the point of attack and the limited length and stuff like that on the outside is really what holds him back. The size, the length, the weight, the size. But he's a guy that could easily spot start, if you need to in a pinch at tackle, Similar. I'm not saying game style. I'm not saying gameplay comparative, but similar to what Elijah Vera Tucker for the Jets does, He's, he was a tackle in college. He was drafted to be a guard, but guess what? They needed some, like push comes to shove. He had to play a little bit of tackle here or there, so on and so forth. A guy who's definitely capable of it, but I think has a much higher ceiling inside than outside on the island.
And that's what I was gonna say. Was that exactly that? After rewatching Fautanu, I just kind of came to the realization, which was like, man, a lot of his skill set is gonna do really well inside, and I think a lot of NFL scouts are gonna see the same thing, and that's why I put him on this list. Now, one of the things that I think we should talk about is like why Graham Barton isn't on my list, and it's not because I don't like Graham Barton. I spent like 15 minutes loving on Graham Barton on our offensive tackle class, and I still do. And that's the point. I think Barton's skill set will translate not just inside, because I think he can be an excellent guard, but I also think he holds up really well at tackle at the NFL level. And he is the one guy this class that I'm kind of not willing to budge on in terms of like putting him on my interior offensive lineman, thing. It's kind of how I think you were last year with Peter Skoronski. You believed that he could play tackle, and I saw all of the reasons why, and I get it. This is me making that stand. Now, I do not think Graham Barton is as good as Peter Skoronski was or is, but I think Graham Barton, if he goes to an NFL team, when he goes to an NFL team, I think he should get a legit look at tackle before saying, you know what, we're just going to put him at guard. I think you should go in if you're going to draft Barton out of Duke, you should go in with the knowledge we know he can play guard. Let's see if he can win a tackle job, because I think he can do really well either way. And you know what, worst case scenario, put him in at center. He can probably do that too.
No, he definitely can. I mean, he started I think it was 9 games as a freshman at center for Duke. So
Plays everywhere.
he has legitimate 5 positional flexibility. But Graham Barton. The thing is, like, I love the tenacity he plays with. He plays with ferocity. He finishes blocks. Technically, I think he's really sound. I just thought there was at times that he just lacked the the footwork and just the overall body of work to really handle the speed on the outside. I think, again, similar to Fautano, he does his best business inside at the point of attack, where he can really drive and use that that weight room strength that he has. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that's why I think Barton's going to end up inside. Listen, he might be a center for somebody, and that wouldn't be out of the question. But speaking of centers,
yes,
why don't
I
we
was
get
about
into
to say.
why don't we get into some of these positional breakdowns, the deeper ones? I mean, we talked about Fautano and Barton. We really didn't plan on it, but talk to me about your guy. I mean, if I got to hear JPJ out of your mouth or on my phone or in my DMs one more time, I'm gonna throw up. So talk to me about JPJ.
I love this kid.
I love the player too, and now I'm really even more stoked because he just announced that he's one of the juniors that's going to be down at Senior Bowl.
Yeah, look, this class is. I have fallen in love with scouting centers recently, if we're being honest. Ever since the Creed Humphrey draft, and everything like that. And I love me some centers. Love me some centers. And again, being a Jets fan, we got Mangold and all of these, like, we've got a great history of centers. And I think JPJ has this ability to be the next second round center that's going to come to the NFL and is going to be great in that same kind of ilk of, Creed Humphreys, I think, exceeded everybody's expectations of what he could be at the NFL level. I loved Creed coming in. Same thing with Joe Tippmann this year. I love Joe Tippmann, and I think he's doing exactly what we thought he was going to do. And JPJ is just another one of those centers, is a second round guy that I've just kind of fallen in love with. I love his how he plays with such strength and ferocity from the center, which is great. I think he's been able to show off. He's got a relatively good anchor when it comes to pass pro, when he can just get in to an interior defensive lineman, just one-on-one, get a hold of the pads and just, put his feet into the ground and hold a guy up. I love how just explosive he is off the line. And that's one of the things that you love to see from a center, right? Like, not only is he safe with the transition of the football, handing the ball, he's holding it, giving it to the quarterback, being safe in that aspect and in that part, but you can see him there in Oregon helping out Bo Nix at the line and shifting coverages and shifting protections and doing all of those things. And I think it's just, if you want a really, really good center for your run game, and a guy who's going to be safe with the football and you don't have to worry about it. He can play in the shotgun. He can play under center. Like, he can do those things. I think JPJ is the guy that you want to look at. He does have some work that I think he needs to do in pass protection. I think that's his biggest area of need right now. There are going to be certain situations with like certain stunts and certain like counter moves and different things that he's going to struggle with at the next level. But if you put him in the middle of a line and you give him some help at guard, like some high-level help at guard, you're looking at a kid that, might need a game or two to get going, but that's it. That's, I think, all you need. It's a game or two to get going, and he's going to be fine, more than fine, for an offensive line moving forward. It's gotten me to the point to where I'm starting to think of, if the Jets can get a second-round pick, does it make sense taking JPJ and moving Tippmann to guard? Because I just love centers, man. I would draft a center every year because I love centers.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'm not going to shift this into Jets talk. But yeah, I'm a believer that I think Tippmann is better guard. But JPJ, I agree with a lot of what you said. Like, he's big, he's strong, he's physical. I don't know how athletic he is, and I definitely don't know. I think the combine's going to kind of play important, or at least the measurements at the Senior Bowl as well are going to play important because that length is probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side. So um, if there's anything, those are the two things that probably worry me the most about JPJ. I don't know if he's like I said, I just don't know if he's the most athletic, twitchy, kind of player out there, But we don't need a center to, you don't need a center to be Myles Garrett or anything like that, right?
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think that we'll say I'm very interested to see his 40 time as
Mm-hmm.
well because he's quick, man. He's fast. He's not quick. He's fast. There's the thing. So if you can get him out into space, if you like pulling centers and you like pulling guards, getting them out to the second level, getting them out into space and doing those, those types of runs from the interior of the offensive line, whether it's inside zone, outside zone, or, counters and different things like that. JPJ is a guy that to me is the thing I'm most interested in is his 40 time because I think, dude, the guy can move. If you get him to the second level, he can move. Imagine him one-on-one with the safety. It's not fair, and he can keep up. So that's
Well,
the
I mean,
one thing I'm very interested in.
he's scheme versatile. I think he's got to, he's got to learn how to, play with a little bit of a little better leverage, and like I said, use not just trust, you know, pure power and brute power and brute strength at all times, like maybe he was able to do in college. But yeah, listen, I have, I think he's going to be a second round pick. I have him as a top 50 player right now. Probably closer to top 30 if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be a center for a long time. And he's young. He just turned 21. He's going to grow into his body a little bit more. He's a guy that I think like 3 or 4 years down the road, we can look back and say, wow, he might have been the best player in this draft. And this is a stacked draft class. So to say that about a guy like JPJ is a lot. So, but there's another guy. You know what? Before you talk about another one of the centers, let me touch on another guy that I like. It's a name that's very popular. I don't have to really, say too much because I think he does it for a lot. I have him a little bit rated a little, and that's Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. Um, yeah, listen, Cooper Beebe. I don't. He was one of like actually maybe Christian Haynes probably of all the players on the interior that whose film I watched, Christian Haynes was probably one that I saw the least amount of issues with. I really thought that, play style, technique, everything that he had, I thought, there wasn't a lot of bad reps in Christian Haynes. Cooper Beebe was a close second. And I even went back and watched some from years past, because he's played all over the line. Also, he's had some tackle experience, and it's just like I said, elite pass blocker, very strong in the run game as well. There's nothing much that Cooper Beebe doesn't do well. I think what strikes me the most is at however 6'4", 325 pounds, how well he moves and how athletic he is. That stuff comes to the forefront. He's a mauler. Don't let me get it twisted. But so he's a mover of people. He can move people at the point of attack and just drive them right the hell out. But like I like what he does out in space as well. I like what he does getting to the second level. Very, very good, quick feet. He stays in balance all the time. Very technical in pass protection with his hands, with his punches, with his strikes, with his counter strikes. Just again overall a very, very high floor player, right? He's again very athletic for a guy this big. Not the biggest, not the best, not the twitchiest of athletes that we'll see come through this draft class. But a very, very, very high floor. A guy who, like I said, can plug all over the offensive line, but I think he's going to find his home probably as a left guard, somewhere where he can use his movement skills and still drive people right off the ball. Yeah, Cooper Beebe in a nutshell. There's not much, a big body like that, has experience playing all over the line. a mover of people with great technique and super strong. There's not much to dislike about his film. He's a guy for some reason, I don't know why, he doesn't get as much love. Like if Cooper Beebe went in the first round, I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow.
I'm saying I don't think he's going to be a first rounder, but if his name got called, in place of say like a Troy Fatanu or Graham Barton as one of these first guards off the board, it wouldn't like surprise me all that much, But more than likely, like, he's going to be somewhere within the top 60, in that day two, beginning of day two. So Cooper
That's interesting. Again, I liked Cooper Beebe a lot.
Mhm.
And I liked his tape a lot. The one thing that I think, and I think this is where I tend to disagree a little bit, is I think he needs to do better with his patience in pass protection in the run game. Moving forward, he's nasty. Like, not dirty and like a dirty player. I mean, like, just, you said it perfectly. He is a mover of people. If you can get him moving forward and him moving all that weight, you said 325. I have him listed at 335 from where I saw. So, like, again, for him to move the way that he does at 6'4", 330, like, again, that's awesome. I think what I saw from him is in pass protection, while technically he's sound, like with his hands,
Mhm.
I find him a little impatient. And that's one of the things where I think that if you go up against really good interior defensive linemen at a consistent basis, which is what he's going to do in the NFL, I think that's one of the things that he needs to worry and work on. And this is why I have him ranked a little bit lower than you do, is because I look at it and I go, dude, if a guy, I hate bringing this, so I'm not. Let's go to a different team. If a guy like Christian Wilkerson, right, sees that you're impatient and you want to get your hands out early, is he going to take advantage of that?
Yeah.
Is he going to let you throw your punch and then grab you and pull you down and then be in the backfield, right? And that's one of the things where I saw from Cooper is a little bit of impatience there. And because, he wants to get engaged in the battles like quickly, because he knows once he can get engaged in a hand fight, he's going to win. It tends to lead to maybe putting his weight over the front of his toes, leading to some of those, missed reps. Don't get me wrong. That's fixable. Like, that's really, really fixable. Like, just building up that patience and just let the guy come to you and then hit him, and he's got that strength to do it. But that's one thing I think that NFL teams are going to knock him on. And I did in my rankings. But I totally agree in terms of, I don't think maybe top 60. But if you told me Cooper Beebe goes in the bottom of the second, top of the third, I would totally believe you. And I'd be like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, but with all the tackle film that he has, on tape, I think that the versatility that he offers is going to really appeal to the NFL teams.
Yeah,
like I
that
said,
too.
Big build, versatile. Like I said, as strong in the run game, and I think equally as strong in the pass game. With some flaws. I think you pointed out some fair ones. But listen, I mean, the talent is evident, and like I said, he shows a guy like he strikes me. I don't know him from Adam, but he strikes me, as a guy who's going to be like one of the hardest workers in the room too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
I love me some Cooper Beebe. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, BB's a man, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're gonna touch on another center here, and this is a guy. If you guys haven't watched Zach Frazier yet on film,
do it.
yeah, go do it. I mean, this guy epitomizes what like real tough NFL, linemen
Grit.
look and feel and play like. So, educate us on Zach Frazier, man.
Zach Frazier, the best word to describe him is just grit. That's it, man. He's a hard worker. And like, here's the thing. Does he do any one thing at an exceptionally high level? I don't particularly think so. But I also don't think he does anything at a particularly low level. Is he a good pass protector? Yeah, I think he is. Is he a good run blocker? Yeah, I think he is. Can you put him out into space? You can. You probably shouldn't, but you can. Can he hold up a bull rush? Can he do? Absolutely. I think that when you look at Zach Frazier and when you watch Zach Frazier, the real thing that you walk away with is go, dude, this kid's solid. That's it.
Yeah.
This is just solid. He's not going to blow you away. He's not going to, be the next best great center in the NFL or anything like that. But he epitomizes to me a high floor player. That when I think of like a player, maybe doesn't have the highest ceiling. And who knows? Who am I to predict ceiling? But like when you're talking about a guy who has a high floor, like Zach Frazier probably has one of the higher floors of all of the players in this draft. Like he's good in the run game. He's good in the pass game. He's got good enough eyes to where.
You okay?
Sorry, he's
That's
got
okay.
good enough eyes where he's gonna see that second level attack coming in and adjust to double teams and stunts and things like that. He's patient in the passing game, so he's not going to really put his weight over his toes. He can get out of his stance really, really quickly with really, really good, consistent, it's just consistent. Every rep from Zach Frazier kind of looks like the previous rep. The pad level is the same. The exploding, that first step out of his stance is the same. And that's the thing. He doesn't have the quickest first step, but you know what it is? It's good enough. And I think that's the best way to describe Zach Frazier is, he's good enough. And I don't know if you can ask more of a player than to just be good enough. You don't need to be a superstar. You don't need 11 superstars on your team. And Zach Frazier definitely, in my eyes, isn't going to be a superstar. But you know what he is going to be? Good enough. He's going to be a hard player that if you draft to play center, he's not going to be easy to replace, at all. And he's going to be good enough for your football team.
Yeah. Listen, I love how, he's built, he's stout, he's strong. He's got, super, super strong core, super strong lower half. I think he's, he showed it on film, at least in West Virginia. Like he's not scheme dependent. He can fit into his zone or a gap power scheme. Generates tons and tons of torque and tons of power. Understands leverage. All those things that you want from a good interior lineman. I have some questions on how he's going to kind of maintain at the next level in straight up in pass protection, especially against somebody who can win the leverage battle. Because there's going to be some guys, I'm curious. You talked about Christian Wilkins. I'd love to see him one up on Christian Wilkins or Dexter Lawrence or Quinnen Williams for that matter. Because I think that he'll struggle against the guys that have that power speed combo a little bit at the next level. So there's definitely some room for improvement in regards to, his, his technique and everything in regards to pass blocking. But I think you hit the nail on the head when he said, is he going to knock your socks off? Be the star of the show, game in and game out? Probably not, but he's not going to hurt you. Right. He's not an average player. He's a very good player. But the ceiling isn't as high as somebody like we talked about, like Jackson Powers Johnson or, Christian Haynes, or even I think Cooper Beebe. I don't think the ceiling's as high, but you're going to get a really, really good guy who's going to come in here and work his tail off for you. Play in, play out. Now, I know he did battle a late season injury. Yep. Hopefully that doesn't affect him in the pre-draft process. But, I think Zach Frazier, is going to be one of the first probably 4 centers taken off the board, probably somewhere around 3rd or 4th round. That's my guess right now.
Yeah. I think he's closer in my eyes of like a team that needs a center. There's so many, when I did my rankings, one of the things that I looked at is like how many teams need a center. And there's a lot of teams that need a center. Yeah. And I don't think either one of us have him on our list. Oh, you do. You have him at 8 and Cedric Van Pran, who, again, another great center. in this draft. But the list kind of falls off after Van Pran. And I think what might happen is if someone takes JPJ, you might see a little bit of a pseudo run on the centers. Not like they'll go one right after the other, like we tend to see with like wide receivers or something.
Yeah.
But kind of like what we saw last year, the Jets took Tittman, and then like the Giants went, and then you saw like within the span of like 10 to 15 picks, like 3 centers go, and you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
that was unexpected. And I think once JPJ goes, the values of guys like Frazier and Zinter, Frazier and Van Pran go up. And again, I love Frazier. Like I said, I think he's good enough, and I think that's more than what you need at center.
Yeah, I really like the like I said, like the grit and the attitude that he plays with, like no nonsense. I think NFL teams will probably will like the overall body of work and especially like the measurables for a guy like Sed Van Pran a little bit more. So he could be drafted ahead of Zach Zinter. The injury is going to definitely play into that as well. So, like I said, if he comes off the board late day 2, early day 3, I think that's probably his comfort, that comfortable zone. But he's gonna come in. He's gonna challenge for a spot right away, and if not, I think he'll be a starter within a year or two.
Yep,
without a doubt. Like I think he's capable starting material. Zach Frazier. So speaking of Zach's,
another one,
and another injured Zach as well.
Yeah,
and that's Zach Zinter, the guard from Michigan. Just size galore, length galore.
Oh, yeah.
6'6", 325. He's got ideal length. He's got ideal agility. I talked about earlier with Fautano that weight room strength. That he's got that weight room strength, man. It just translates very, very well, especially in the upper body, to what he can do in the game. How he affects the game. I think he stands out as a pass blocker. Plays phenomenal balance. Always has his head on a swivel. Can count. Anchors tough against the bull rush. Picks up those stunts and games and twists really, really well. He's got vice grips for hands, so like all that stuff. Technically proficient. So I think pass blocking even shines even more against his run blocking. But he's got a mean streak in him too, man. He's another guy, generates a lot of force, a lot of torque, a lot of power, with that, with that core strength and that ridiculously strong upper body that he can just keeps driving people out of the way, gashing lanes open at the point of attack. Although like what strikes me in my notes, I have arguably the best pass blocking guard in the draft. His run blocking is not that far off either. Like I said, a lot of it is just really, really solid technique. He's a technician, man. He knows how to use how to blend that, that elite level technique along with that God-given strength that he has, and those measurables, that length that he doesn't let people get up onto his chest. He's capable of keeping big, strong defensive linemen at bay. The cool thing about Zach Zinter also is, he's one of the guys, I think there's a few of them in this class that are coming out, academic All-American, 2-time academic All-American. So, he's smart. You know what I mean? He's the real deal. Now, if it wasn't for a broken leg, a broken tibula that happened, I think, in the Big Ten championship, we'd probably be talking about Zach Zinter. I'd probably be talking about Zach Zinter in the same breath in regard to where he's going to get drafted, as I think Christian Haynes and Cooper Beebe will, and that's that early second round thing. But the injury, he's going to have to show that he's come back from that injury. So right now, I think he's probably more of a third round pick. Got a little bit to prove that he's come back fully healthy. Because the injuries, the injury flags are real in the NFL. They're making investments on guys, and they want to make sure that they're 100% good to go. But I'm pretty confident. I mean, I don't know much about the injury outside of that. It was just a broken tibia, so I don't know. I'm pretty confident that he'll be able to come back to full strength from it. And he's gonna, like I said, I think he's not scheme specific. He can fit any kind of blocking scheme that you want to run, and I think he's going to be a stalwart at the guard position for probably the next 12 to 15 years.
Absolutely. I gave him a knock because of the injury, because I think NFL teams are going to give him a knock because of the injury, right? And that's the reality, because I think Frazier in my eyes had the ability to be much higher up on my list.
Zinter, you mean, or Frazier?
Zinter. Sorry. You're absolutely right. Zinter had an opportunity to be much higher up on my list, ahead of, Frazier and even possibly JPJ, because the tape is really, really good.
Yeah.
And Zinter is a guy that I even look at and like, because of his length, because he is so long.
Yeah.
Does he get a look? If he goes to a team with a ton of injuries, does he ever get even a look at tackle?
Yeah,
He's
I think
so long. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think you draft him as a guard, you play him as a guard, and I don't know, man. With that length, if you're an offensive line coach, you at least look at it. You at least have that conversation, and you're like, dude, have you played tackle? Have you done it a lot? Do you want to, like, after practice work on it? Like, let's see if we can get you. And then maybe like in 3 or 4 years, you bump him outside when you lose. Zinter to me is the most interesting guy in this draft, because I can kind of see everybody else's career and kind of like picture it. And I can see that trajectory in the path and where they kind of ultimately end up. Like Fatano, I think we said it perfectly. Like Graham Barton, we kind of have a list of JPJ and Free. Zinter's a wild card.
Yeah.
You can come in and you can start him at left guard day one for his entire career, and he'll work and you'll play incredibly well.
Yeah. He did have some reps in college at right tackle, but he found his home. He found his home and made his money there as the right guard.
Yeah.
At Michigan, and like I said, could he transition and play tackle for a spot start or for a short period of time? Absolutely. I think he's athletic enough. And he definitely has the length to do it, but he's one of those guys that is going to be like has that ceiling to be like, an all-world center. An all-world guard where he could probably just get by as a tackle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, listen, this class is interesting, man. This is it's a really good, relatively deep interior class. A lot of good guys that we didn't touch on. A lot of good guys outside the top 10. I'm thinking Bo Limmer, the center from Arkansas, is another guy that I really like. I think he's gonna, turn a lot of heads come draft day. There's also guys. You have Tate Ratledge on here. I'm actually not sure. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if Tate Ratledge announced yet that he's coming out. But yeah, if he does, that's another really good player. Another big body there. There's lots of guys that I think are going to be NFL caliber players, contributors relatively early from this class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, listen, that's the interior class in a nutshell. We got a lot more content coming your way over the next couple weeks, next couple months, definitely during this draft cycle. I'm sure before April comes, we'll reassess and re-gauge our tops of this list. Maybe we won't go, a top 10 again, but maybe we'll, give you an adjusted top 5 or something like that for this interior class. A lot, next couple weeks are going to be really important. The Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, the Combine, all that stuff is going to weigh heavily on some of these guys and whether or not they hear their name on day 1 or day 2 or day 3.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, a lot more to come. So before we get off, Tigo, just remind everybody where they can see you, where they can find you.
Talking Jets with Tigo. Everything is there. Thankfully, I'm getting healthy. I'm getting back, finally able to talk. So we're going to start grinding that stuff out. But you know what? Most important place to find me is right here.
Yes.
At Project Prospect. So.
Yes. Yeah. And guys, again, just if you haven't yet, kindly like the video. If you haven't subscribed, could really use that as well. Hit the bell for notifications. The Draft Dodgers podcast is going to come out. We're going to try to get at least one, maybe two new shows out a week, straight up until the draft. Let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know who you want us to deep dive on. Talk to us and we'll communicate back to you guys. So we're here for you. This is what we love to do, and we love to share the knowledge that we have with you guys. It's draft time, baby. It's draft season. It's we're ready to go. So
yes.
On behalf of my esteemed co-host Tigo, I'm Dom C. We are the Draft Dodgers. Until next time, peace.